Good evening and welcome to Mr. Wilson Live. We have a pretty interesting lineup this evening for you. We're going to be looking at water treatment as a domestic treatment and, of course, the industrial or commercial process. We're also going to be taking a dive, should I say, or a peek into a pit latrine as to what it should be and look at its existence in the Caribbean. So a pretty interesting lineup we have for the evening. We want to get on with it and of course give you some time to go and study. You might have seen we would have released, I think, 2 videos today. We should have released one yesterday. We didn't, but we released 2 today. I think I've just placed the link for both videos in the chat. One is on recycle, reuse, reduce, the 3 R's of sustainable environment or of a sustainable environment. And I think we also sent out another on the types of nutrients, looking at the different types of nutrients. I think they are pretty informative and easy to remember. I think you want to grab those and, of course, make sure that you can remember them for the exam coming up. Not too sure what is happening, but a lot of persons seem not to be here, and I am going to just get on with the show. Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. And I have not said this for quite some time, but please continue to give the video some love, the show some love. You should recall that our last show for our live for the 2020-21 academic school year comes up this Friday. So this Friday, we are expecting that we're going to be having the last live. I'm not too sure if we're going to be going over, but we are almost certain by Friday we should be able to complete the entire syllabus. All right. So for me, it's been a while since I've completed the syllabus, but with you, so with that eager to learn, you have afforded me the opportunity to complete the syllabus in time for you to get ready for the exam. Let's look at water purification. As I say, good evening to those who are in the room and those who are in yonder land. Pretty much I'm seeing Cheryl, which was here pretty early. I admire that. Macmillan was in early as well. I saw Jawawan coming in on time. And now I'm seeing Sean. Shaw is here. Good evening and welcome to the show. Please be reminded to invite your friends to come on over because we're going to be in and out in a jiffy. We're looking at water purification, and particularly we're looking at water purification at home. What is it that we can do to purify water at home? But before we up into purifying the water at home, we need to look at the whole idea of sources of water to the home. Where is it that we get our water from? So we're talking about water purification. The water at home, where is it from? Okay, want to tell me in the chat? Sutherland, welcome to the show. Douglas, welcome to the show. Felix, welcome to the show as we move right along. So a source of water in the home, it will definitely differ from person to person. Some persons might be getting water by going to the river to fetch themselves some water. Some persons might be getting water from the canal, and canal are usually water sources that are pretty much lifted from the river and, of course, channeled in a man-made channel. Stream, some persons might go to a little stream. It's not as big as a river, but a little place that water is trickling and they can pretty much collect the water there. There are some persons who are pretty much getting the water from a lake, some might get it from a pond. And of course, there are those of us like Mr. Wilson growing up in the country, way back then, you would have probably gotten the water from your roof as a result of rainfall. You pretty much store that water in containers, drums, use a piece of zinc to collect it, or you use some rainwater harvesting. That is pretty much something that is being done now. In parishes in Jamaica, like St. Anne, the real rural area in St. Anne, they do water harvesting. So the water is collected in a catchment area, stored, and of course, distributed to persons in the community or to a local pipe. We also get water from the sea for those persons who are in Cayman. Welcome to the show if you are from Cayman. I have been seeing you in the statistics that you are here every now and then. So I'm seeing that persons are getting water from plants. water from plant. We're talking about water to use in the home. How is it that we get that water? Yeah, we get some amount of water from the plant, but the water that we use at home and in the industry, where is it from? So some persons are getting rainwater from the tank. That's a real fact in the Caribbean. Where does the water from? Water from dams. All right, so dams are really areas that are really man-made in most cases, and of course, the water from the river is channeled in the dam and then redirected to persons in the community after being treated. It's pretty much the same damn thing that we would channel into canals. But having this water coming from so many different sources, you will agree with me that the chance of this water being polluted might be high. If you look at rivers, canal, streams, lake, pond, these might pretty much have things in it that we really don't want to consume. And when you look at the rainwater, it could pretty much pick up some pollutant coming through the air. Acid rain, you know a little bit about that. And when we look at the water for the persons in Cayman from the sea, the saline, we have salt in it. So we have all these factors to contend with. And because we have these factors to contend with, we must find suitable ways of treating the water. There are still areas in the Caribbean where potable water have not reached even to this date. And there are still some persons who are celebrating. Hey, we find out we have potable water, and persons from urban areas like, really? There was somewhere still without water? If you want to find out what this is like, you could log on to worldometer.com to find out what's the supply of water per person like in the world. There's a whole lot of statistical information being collected and distributed at Worldometer. You really want to go over there and look at the statistics if you're a person who really like to keep track of data. So how do we treat with all this water that is polluted? We want to look at waters from rivers and lakes and so on that is probably mildly polluted, and we could probably just do some simple treatment at home to treat that water. From your knowledge, what are some of the ways in which we treat water at home? Of course, Mr. Wilson can't give you everything. What are some of the ways that we're going to treat water at home? The purified water. What's the first thing that comes to mind in purifying water at home? All right, great. You are watching Mr. Wilson live. For those persons who are joining for the first time, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe, and you can make use of our many videos on the back end of the channel. To access those videos, all you need to do is to click that blue icon below that says CSET Biology TCP. It will take you to the back end of the channel, and you can choose to watch individual videos or, of course, click on a playlist. So we could boil water at home. I'm seeing that from Watson. Jawawan, chlorination, boiling from Cheryl, and I'm seeing Monifa Sutherland saying that boiling the water is a suitable method. Douglas is also saying boiling, and Felix is saying dilute the water with bleach. Not too sure what's happening there, but of course we can use bleach pretty much to treat the water. Jawan is saying boiling. Shaw is saying bleach. Boil it and add bleach to it. Okay, a whole other thing. Thompson is saying boil and add in bleach. All, of course, which are indeed correct. So we want to look at boiling first. What is it that boiling entails? Now, boiling entails bringing the water, one would say, to a boil. Now, water would start boiling somewhere at about 100 degrees Celsius. So when we talk about a boil might be different for different chemicals. Alcohol would be boiling at 78 degrees Celsius. Water is boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. So we want the water to boil for a little time there to see if we can remove some of the pathogen that might have been in the water. Of course, this would, of course, kill some of the pathogen or kill most of the pathogen, making the water a little more suitable for consumption. Now, it's also important to filter the water to remove solids if the water is from a source that the water might have been turbid. Turbid means murky. You want to, of course, ensure that the water is properly filtered. We're going to look at how we filter that water. There are many ways. There are persons who will use a piece of cloth to filter it. There are persons who will pass the water through a sand bed. There are persons that will do many things to filter the water, and we're going to learn about that this evening. Dana, good evening and welcome to the show. Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe if you have not done that as yet. So the first thing we look at, and the first method that we look at for water treatment is, of course, to boil the water. So we're going to bring the water to a boil and we're going to allow it to boil for a little while, and then we are going to allow it to cool. All right. And having been cool, you probably want to filter, you probably want to filter before, but boiling the water is paramount here, and you want to ensure that there are no suspended solids in the water. So that makes filtering a very, very important part of the process. Now, there are some persons, I was told, I've never left Jamaica, I've always said that in Cayman there is no river. Please correct me if you're from Cayman, I don't know. So they would rely a whole lot on water from the sea. Now, water from the sea is pretty much saline, it has salt in it. How can we get that water to a state where we can consume it and be fine? A simple way to do it at home is to carry out what we refer to as distillation. Now, what does that mean? Before I get into the process, just let me tell you about distillation as it is at home now. So you are cooking at home and you have the pot all covered. And when you lift that pot cover, you would have observed that there's water on the cover. But when you started out, there was no water on the cover. But what would have happened is that the water particles would have vaporized and, of course, condensed on the cover, creating the liquid on the cover. But how can we do this to ensure that we have enough water to drink? Now, it's going to be an expensive process because you probably would have to boil for a very long time. So what we need to do in this case, we're going to have our regular pot that we're cooking in, and then we're going to have a smaller container that is suspended above the liquid in that pot. You can probably use a wire or a string to tie it so that it is suspended, and then you are going to have a cover, usually an inverted pot cover. On top of that, you really don't want it to touch the pot that it becomes hot, right? And as soon as the steam rises and touches that cold area, what will happen is that it will condense and the water will fall into that container that you have suspended in the pot. Please be reminded that you have to apply some amount of heat. So that means that you'll have to boil the water in order to get the water to condense. Hi, and I want to say hi. All right. There. All right, great. All right, great. Hi. And I. All right, wonderful. All right, great. So I'm going to continue. All right, cool. Right. So that's condensation for purifying water at home. Like I said, this might be something that persons in the Cayman Island are those persons who are doing basic chemistry, or those persons who are doing grade 9 chemistry. You might have come up on what is called distillation, or you might have heard about a distillation chamber or distillation column, or if you look at a fermentation process, you would have seen this thing around the place. But what we're saying that the one at home is a little less complex than those that are designed and out there for the purpose. So of course we can do it at home. Now, it is used, of course, distillation is ideal. Stop that. It's ideal for purifying seawater. All right, where the water has salt in it, then distillation is going to be a nice way to treat with that. Like I said, it is expensive and require a lot of heat. So you're going to be using a whole lot of your gas to boil the water to get this out of the way. Make sure that you understand the process of distillation and its use to, of course, get water out of saline water. All right, saline water meaning it contains salt. All right, great. Yes, great. It was nice having you. All right, look where you're going. Okay. Yes, nice. All right, bye bye. Nice boy. Great. All right, good. So we have looked at boiling. We have looked at distillation. We want to look at filtration as a method of purifying water. Of course, filtration and purifying water, we have to be very careful where the source of the water is. What's the source of the water? What we tend to do in filtration is pretty much to pass the water through a filter bed to purify the water. The filter bed is usually made of fine sand, coarse sand, and then gravel at the bottom. Now, the filter must be changed, or the sand must be changed regularly in order to ensure that it, of course, maintain the purity that you are looking for. Please be reminded that when we do this filtration, Regular charcoal, that you would use in your fire, it is used to remove, should I say, color from water. So if the water is discolored and you are supposed to add charcoal to the water, yes, the charcoal is black, it will of course remove that discoloration to give you that pristine color that you are so used to with water. So let me go again. We have looked at boiling as a method of purification. We have looked at distillation as a method of purification. We have also looked at filtration as a method of purification. And now we're going to just dive a little deeper into a more complex process called desalination. Now, desalination, of course, is to remove salt. So before we're doing distillation, now we have to have, that is very expensive, the distillation. But now we have even a more complex machinery or equipment that remove the salt from seawater. So this is a process that uses a complex gadget to remove salt from seawater, and it is called desalination plant. So we can use a desalination plant to harvest some water from the sea and of course remove the salt so that it is palatable or it is able to be consumed. Another way that we can purify water is through chlorination or the use of bleach. Now, chlorination might come in chlorine pellets, it might come in a chlorine tablet, or it may come in a bleach depending on the concentration. I'm not too sure if it is written on the bottle or when you purchase the thing, it will tell you what portion of a bleach or chlorine tablet should be added to the water. I'm not too sure of that, but please feel free to go and do the research via YouTube or Google. Now, chlorination, it acts as a disinfectant to purify water. Now, we are going to find out that when we add this to the water, what happens is that it creates something new, and of course, is releasing oxygen in the water, thus reducing even the acidity of the water as carbon dioxide will be moved out. So just before I move into the commercial water treatment, which might give you a little challenge this evening, I want you to remind me of the 5 ways in which we could purify water at home. Write them in the chat for me. As you write them in the chat, I remind my viewers in Yonderland, those persons who are joining for the first time, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe if you like the show or if you like our product. If you don't know about our product, feel free to go to the back end of the channel by just clicking on that blue icon that says CSEC Biology TCP, and you can be treated with just about all the videos that we have on the CSEC Biology and Human and Social Biology syllabus. This is, of course, Mr. Wilson Live. We have been streaming 1 year, 3 days per week, and this comes to an end this Friday. We are indeed grateful that you made yourself available, that we could, or we can, or we will complete the syllabus by Friday. Please also be reminded that the lives, they are all available on the channel, so you can access them at your will. All right, great. We continue to put past papers out. We're going to be having the activated sludge method and aeration method for sewage treatment. You are going to get what's the difference video coming out shortly. And you're also going to be getting that paper that you have been asking for. The 2019 paper 2 should be coming out shortly, both for January and May. So we have been doing a whole lot of work in the background, a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, a little of that, just to ensure that we keep you in tune. So I just asked you to name in the chat for me the methods we spoke about a while ago. We spoke about 5 methods of course, purifying water at home. I'm not too sure. Okay, it's coming in. So we started out with boiling. Somebody said add chlorine and filtration. What else did we say? All right, we have to take learning to a new level. If we came in with boiling, we came in with chlorination, and we came in with filtration, we can't remember the others, then it suggests that no learning took place. All right, so what's the other 2? What are the other 2 methods that we made mention of? the other two methods. All right, so we're trying to figure out the ways in which we can, of course, purify water at home. We started boiling sediments, boiling sedimentation. Let us just keep it. I'm just checking to see how much you can recall from what I said. All right, I'm just trying to. The three ways you can treat water at home are boiling, adding bleach to the right, and not distribution, but distillation. Distillation, not distribution. All right? Distillation. We spoke about desalination, but desalination, I'm not too sure if we have equipment like that at home in Cayman. I'm not too sure, but it came up when we looked at treating water at home. So let's go again with that. We started out by saying the one that is familiar to most persons is going to be boiling. And then we went on to distillation, which is pretty much boiling the water and collecting that water from the steam through condensation. I went to filtration, that goes through a sand bed or a filtering system. And then we went to chlorination, and we said that we could use chlorine tablet, we could use bleach, we could use, of course, chlorine pellets. And then we also went to desalination, which we said it might be a more efficient method than distillation. And of course, these are really important. The distillation and the desalination unit, these are really more practical in areas where there are where there's no fresh water. Instead, you have to use water from the sea. All right, so that takes us to the end of the purifying water at home. We want to look at purifying water in a commercial plant. Before I get into the details of this, which I might have to look at a diagram and share with you, that type of a thing, I am going to be sharing with you some things now. As soon as I say them, I'm going to ask somebody to write them on the screen. There are 6 points or 6 things, main things, that are done in commercial water treatment. And even if you don't remember all the other fancy dances that I'm going to say this evening, I want you to try and remember these as the 6 steps to commercial water treatment. So I'm going to start with them, and then I'm going to end with them before we get into sewage treatment. So I am ready to go now. So we are looking at the stages of water purification on an industrial platform or on a commercial platform or from your water supplier. What is it that they do in order to ensure that the water that you're getting in your pipe is, of course, one would say palatable, suitable for consumption. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is that the water will be harvested from a river, and it will, of course, be stored in a reservoir. So the first thing is to get that water in a reservoir. So type that in the chat for me. Now the reservoir is going to store as that collection and storage site for the water. That's the first thing that is going to happen. We are going to get that water into our reservoir. All right, so type it in the chat for me. The other thing that is going to happen after the reservoir is that we're going to have some screening. We're going to have some screening. And what the screening will do is, of course, to remove suspended solids. When we talk about suspended, if you were supposed to see on a windy day with the dust particles in the air, that is suspension. All right? The chemistry student would understand that smoke is a suspension, toothpaste, which is a colloid, is a suspension, paint is a suspension, and all that. All right? So I'm not seeing anybody typing. I'm not too sure if the transmission is slow. So, but we started out with reservoir, and then the second step is, of course, the screening. And in the screening, water is, of course, we remove the suspended solids from the water. Now, the biggest part of this thing comes up at stage 3. And in stage 3, that is where we have sedimentation. Now, sedimentation involves the solids settling out. It involves the use of UV or ultraviolet light to destroy organisms. And it involves this complex food chain, right? Where protozoa are feeding on bacteria, and then we have some larvae feeding on the protozoa. It involves this complex food chain at that stage of water treatment in removing some organisms from the water. Now, after stage 3, we move on to stage 4. And at stage 4, we are going to have filtration. At stage 4, we are going to have filtration. So those persons who are a little slow with it, I'll go again, I'll start from the top. So the first stage in industrial or commercial water treatment or purification is to get the water in a reservoir. After the water would have been in a reservoir, the other stage is for screening to take place. After screening, we're going to have sedimentation. All right. After sedimentation, we're going to have filtration. Right. So now we are at filtration. Now, at filtration, microorganisms are, of course, removed, all right, by, of course, feeding on microorganisms are removed as organic matter is being fed on, all right? After we have the filtration process, we are going to go to a process that we call chlorination, where chlorine will be added to destroy microorganisms. After the chlorination phase, we might, in some cases, not all the time, we might have fluoridation or the addition of fluorine to the water. And the purpose of adding the fluorine to the water is to prevent tooth decay. All right, so let me say the steps again, and then I'm going to up on into what happens at each phase, and it will take us a little time until we get right back here. I will be saying it again. But for me, what I want you to do is to treat with the steps, the 6 steps, right? If you're looking on the diagram, you could get more steps than that, but this is a summary of the step. You have water being ported to the reservoir. After water being ported to the reservoir, you have screening. After screening, you have sedimentation. After sedimentation, you have filtration. After filtration, you have chlorination. After chlorination, you have fluoridation. All right? So screening for ammoy is step 1, but there can be no screening before the water is in a reservoir. And then step 2, she's saying that it is sedimentation. All right? So we begin actually with water being in a reservoir. Let's up on into the long process of commercial water treatment. All right. So the water being in the reservoir, we're going to have screening taking place, right? What happens is that the water is pumped through a grid screen. The water is pumped through a grid screen of coarse and fine grit. Grit here meaning sand. So the water is pumped through that for screening. Now, what this does is to, of course, remove the suspended solid. So with screening, the water moves through this bed of coarse and fine grit here being sand, and we do that in order to remove the suspended solid. Now, at step 2, as Amoy would have had it, sedimentation is this long process, and this is where you're going to find a whole lot of the chemistry coming into the water treatment. Now, here the water is stored in a reservoir. Now, this allows the solids to settle. When the water is stored here in the sedimentation process, the water is allowed, or the solid, they are allowed to settle. So what is going to happen is that the suspended particles that was in the water, you know that murky water coming from the river or wherever, what will happen as soon as it settles, then the solid particles will fall and of course accumulate at the base of that reservoir. And hence the reason they are saying in Jamaica that the Mona Dam has a whole lot of dirt at the base, because this is, of course, where that solid particle would have actually fallen. The water would sit here in the sedimentation process and be exposed to sunlight and, of course, air. And what this will do is, of course, to destroy some of the bacteria. So the water is going to sit there in the sedimentation stage. Some of the suspended solids will fall. Some of the suspended solid haven't fallen. What is going to happen next is that it is exposed. It's there exposed to light, one might say UV, and of course air, and this aeration and this sunlight will of course cause the death of some bacteria. Now this is where this wonderful food chain that we spoke about begins in the water treatment process, where the protozoan from aquatic life, more so the crustacean, the protozoa, they are from the crustaceans, crustaceans, this is where they are coming from, and they help to feed on, of course, bacteria. So the protozoa, they are feeding on the bacteria. Now, the cycle continues with fish feeding on the protozoa. So in this case, we have the protozoa feeding on the bacteria, and the protozoa themselves will be fed on by the fish. Now, this is a very, very important process in the whole water treatment process, because you understand, if we can't use this biological principle to treat with the organisms here, what we're going to be doing is to add more toxic chemicals to the water for the treatment process. But we really don't want to do that. So of course we ensure that this biological process takes place. And you'll see on probably your exam paper, you might be asked to explain that relationship there of the food chain that is used to treat with microorganisms as we do water treatment. Now the water is then passed through a microstrainer. And micro here means small, a small strainer. And what this will do, it's pretty much a mesh that will, of course, remove plankton. So it will remove plankton. And what does that mean? Okay, having internet issues. Okay, great. All right. What this will do is, of course, to remove plankton. Now, you might have heard me talking about zooplankton, which are microscopic animals. And there's also phytoplankton, which are microscopic plant. And for those persons who are watching SpongeBob, plankton is a phytoplankton. It's, of course, an aquatic microscopic plant, a plant that is suspended in the water. So what will happen is that as it moves through this micro strainer, it will, of course, remove these floating plants suspended in the water. It will remove the floating plants that are microscopic and floating animals that are microscopic, which we refer to as the plankton. Having this been done, we are going to now be moving into what is called a settling tank. So the water is now going to move in a settling tank. Now here the water is coagulated, or you might have heard the word flocculation or flocculated. So here it will clump together. It will cause some solid particles that are suspended in the water and has not fallen out of the water. Here they will clump for small little balls, or you might call it, and this should allow them to fall out of the water or to rise to the top of the water to be, of course, skimmed off. Now, particles are dumped by coagulation. Particles are really dumped by coagulation. So like I just gave you, they might sink, they might float. Now, the chemicals that we use for the coagulation process or for the flocculation process include things like ferric chloride. Ferric chloride is one of the chemicals that we use in water treatment in order to get those particles to clump together. Or we might use ferric sulfate. That's another particle, that's another chemical that we use. We can also use aluminum salts to treat with this. Most persons would have probably heard about aluminum salt, but we can use any of the three: ferric chloride, ferric sulfate, or aluminum salt. Now, while these are added to the water, there's a mechanical stirrer that pretty much mix the coagulant with the water. Now, the dump is then removed as sludge by sedimentation. So the dump is going to be removed as sludge, And of course, we're still in that process of sedimentation. Now, air bubbles will, of course, be passed through the sludge there. And of course, it will be used to rise the sludge before, of course, the removal of the sludge. So a whole lot of chemistry taking place here. Those chemicals I have made mention of. To some persons, what are these? I don't know what sir is talking about. But pretty much just have them written down somewhere and just get used to it. Don't try to understand why the sky is blue. We have no need to do that just now. Now, the aeration helps aerobic decomposers in the water, right? So we pass that air through the sludge in order to rise the sludge. It also helps the aerobic decomposers in the water, and they'll also continue to work on those microorganisms that needs to be decomposed. Another good thing about adding this oxygen to the water is that it's going to remove carbon dioxide from the water. If you remember, carbon dioxide will cause water to become acidic, just like it will cause your blood to become acidic. Thus, it will, of course, reduce the acidity of the water. So if we pump oxygen in the water, it will remove carbon dioxide, and as such, it will also reduce the acidity of the water. Not only that, this oxygen will also help to remove iron and manganese, and these are, of course, going to be removed by hydroxides in the form of hydroxides. All right. After we would have completed all that fancy dancy process of the chemistry in sedimentation, it is now time for the water to move on over into filtration. Now, water passes through, it could be two things. We could deal with filtration, it could be two processes. It could be one slow sand filter that might not be as if might not be as efficient, and I'm going to tell you why. It clogs up a whole lot, but I'll tell you more about that. In the filtration process, we could also pass the water through a rapid gravity filter. Now, this is a fast method, but it too has its limitation. Now, in the filtration process, let's look at the slow sand filter. Water passes through the filter slowly, right? And microorganisms feed on organic remains in the water. So it's passing through this area and it's moving through very slowly. We have these microbes that are feeding on organic remain that are in the water even after we did all that process in the sedimentation process. Now, we could also pass the water rapidly through, of course, a grit, right? Here it is made from aluminum oxide and it allows protozoa to feed on trapped bacteria. All right. Now, the process is quick for this rapid thing. It is quick. And of course, it uses less land space for the dam and all of that. It uses less land space for the dam and all of that. And of course, you are going to have less labor. Now, why you are going to have less labor is because the water moving through this grit so quickly, what is going to happen is that you're not going to be having the system being clogged as it would have been clogged easily when we use the slow method. Now, the slower method is, this method is less efficient at removing detergent and organic matter. So when we move in the water very quickly through that filter system, it is less efficient at removing detergent. If detergent is in the water, it is less efficient at moving organic matter from the water. However, the slow sand filter clogs up very easily. And when it becomes clogged, then you understand that you have to get persons to clean it. You have to, of course, lose time in cleaning it, and you will have to, of course, spend money in cleaning it. Now, the activated carbon is used in some filter. Now, like I said earlier, the activated carbon, what it does is to remove that dirty color, so to speak, from the water, right? So if you have some water that is pretty murky, you could probably try it. Just mix some mud water or something like that and filter it so that the water is sort of brown. Get a piece of charcoal that you'd use to make some fire, put it in that water, and you see the miracle that it works. Now, having gone through the filtration process, the next thing is for chlorination. All right. Now, in the chlorination process, what happens is that you could either add chlorine or you could add ozone, whichever one is available or cheaper at the time, I think. You can add chlorine or ozone, and this is used to remove harmful organism. Now, the chlorine gas forms hypochlorous acid. All right. So the chlorine gas that is added to the water, it forms hypochlorous acid in the water. And this hypochlorous acid will, of course, release oxygen that will kill the bacteria. Now, the persons who are doing chemistry, they could better able to explain for you all this chemical reaction that is happening and how this oxygen evolves as a result of adding chlorine to the water. I think chlorine is a group 7 element. You guys who do chemistry, you can remind me, my chemistry is so rusty, I might be really, really off by far. Now, the water having been treated with chlorine, the next step is for the water to be tested, and the water is, of course, going to be pumped to a storage tank. Now, the storage tank is usually at a high area. It is elevated above your town or your housing scheme so that the water can hydrofeed at a rapid pace. So after the water would have been chlorinated, the water is going to be lifted to this tank that is on this high place. And then from there, the water will, of course, hydrofeed to the community. Now, from tanks to home or, of course, to industry. Now, here is where we're going to be adding some fluorine. All right, and the water may be fluoridated. And what this does is to prevent tooth decay. All right, so they usually add the fluorine there to ensure that you maintain that pretty smile. Now, that wasn't so bad. It takes us very quickly back to where we started. Just a summary of what we did. We started out by getting that water from the reservoir, and then there was screening, and after screening, there was sedimentation, and after sedimentation, there is filtration, and after filtration, there is chlorination, and after chlorination, there is fluoridation. Now, please be reminded that it is in the sedimentation process that flocculation takes place or coagulation takes place. All right, it's very important for you to know that. All right, that was a long thing I said just now. I do hope that you got it. You might not get it for the first time, but as you go through and listen, I'll try to do an animation. It will become a little clearer to you and the reason for doing this. But it's very important that you remember all the steps in the summary I gave you and be able to outline it in the exam. Chevron. Sir, just want to say thanks and I really appreciate your classes. I must go now, though my country has a curfew for 7. Good night, everyone. We'll look at the replay. Thanks again. My pleasure. All right. We do hope that all is well with you. All right. So, Felix, you were saying something. Audrey, we're seeing you. Good evening. Felix, you said wait. All right, so it's Mr. Wilson Live. We're streaming from the Caribbean. To be specific, we're in Kingston. Well, we're not in Kingston today. Usually we're in Kingston, but we're not in Kingston today. We're streaming from another parish in Jamaica, but we're with you still. All right, Felix, coagulation is the 5th treatment, and chlorination is the 6th. All right, it depends on the diagram that you're looking at, because I could pretty much pop a diagram somewhere here that has about 14 steps. So it's going to be dependent on the diagram that you're looking at. As you saw, let me see, this diagram has quite a number of steps. So to say that it is step 1, step 2, step 3, that is why I pointed out that after screening, there's going to be sedimentation. And it is within the sedimentation process that we're going to be having the coagulation. All right? It is within that process we're going to be having the coagulation. All right? So, right. So as to say a 5th, 6th, or 7th, If you want to take it, I could just say the process begins with getting that water from the reservoir. Then the water coming in is going to go through screening. Having gone through screening, it's going to go through this long chemistry lab of sedimentation. After sedimentation, it's going to go through another filtering process. And from this filtration process, then we are going to be adding this chlorine to the water. And from this chlorine being added to the water, it being pumped to a tank for storage and distribution, we add, of course, fluorine. All right. So as to say 5, 6, 7, or 8, it is not fair for me to answer that to say yes or no, because I might be saying yes for you and somebody else is looking at another diagram and it's no for them. All right. I do hope I provided some assistance there. All right. So that takes us to the end of commercial water treatment and, of course, domestic water treatment. And we're going to be looking at sewage disposal, as it were, for the domestic. I shouldn't say domestic. I should say sewage disposal at home. Probably those persons who are not connected to the sewage main. We are going to be looking at that now. Now, because of in the interest of time, and we better understand how the product is consumed, we are not going to be looking at commercial sewage treatment today, but we're going to be carrying commercial sewage treatment the first part of Wednesday's class. And in Wednesday's class, we are going to be looking at, it says here, just let me give you, I think I have it somewhere lined up in my show. Just let me tell you, just before I go. Okay, so in Wednesday's class, we're going to be looking at large-scale sewage treatment, and we are also going to be looking at the population pyramid. That pyramid that is on the May 29 paper, May 2019 paper. It was on the May 2019 paper. And when I saw the question first, forgive me guys, I'm just giving person some time to fetch himself some water so that we can up on into sewage. We're finished with water treatment now. The next part of the show, we're going to be looking at sewage disposal. All right. And there are a lot of questions on sewage disposal, more so pit latrine. So we're going to be looking at that today. And we're going to see if we can draw this virtual picture of pit latrine. So here we go. Okay, no problem. I am glad I found this video to watch. Morgan. So Wilson, will you be starting? What have I missed? Class in September from the start of the syllabus. Okay, great. For September, we are currently loading the channel or the website TCP Academy teachable.com. We are going to be offering paid classes. I know that there are some things there now, but I'm going to send that to you, send you the link. You can log on from wherever you are in Debian, and you can choose how you want to take the course, whether you want to be a part of the private tutor group, or you want to be a part of a group class, or you want me just to teach you a topic. You're having problem with genetics, or you're having problem with homeostasis, whatever. You can choose how you pay for what product. It is not one of these classes that you have to start from start to finish. No. You pay for what you want. You choose with your money. All right? So pretty much that's what it's going to be. You're going to be getting some past papers work explained in different ways. We might put the past papers there based on topics. We might put the past paper there based on year of the past paper, but that's sort of self-paced thing. You're going to have some videos there of classes that we would cover the entire syllabus. So you can go there and watch the videos at your leisure. And of course, if you have challenges, then you can, of course, ship us a question and we will answer. There's a whole lot of details that will be available on the channel. But yes, we are going to be online. We're not going to be having 3 live classes come next year. No, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to be having probably about one live class next year. We will continue to load things on YouTube. But if you are interested in acing that exam and you are in grade 10 or you're an adult learner and you are going to be doing the class next year, a good place to be is over on our paid channel, Teachable. And it's not expensive. Let us get that out of the way because persons continue to think that, oh, this is a online thing, I'll have to take out a fortune. No, because it is online, it is much cheaper because we're expecting that we're going to be having more persons buying into the product, right? So this is a place now where you can almost request what you want, right? If you know that for those persons who know Mr. Wilson and the channel, you know that I do a lot of animation. And now, if you observe the past videos that we have sent out, we have better clips in them because we're getting the clips from somewhere new. We have better pictures. For example, if you look at immunity, the clips that were sent out for immunity, I started that immunity video long time. But guess what? I could not find any picture. I couldn't get any picture to teach it that you can, at a glance, you can see what I'm saying. Now, they know the difference. What we have been trying to do, we put a picture in the background, and as you read or listen to what is there, you're seeing what we're talking about. So if you look at recycle, reuse, and all of that, when we say reduce, you'll see a oil refinery in the back. If you consume less fossil fuel, then you are reducing. And then when we went to reuse, you would have seen some jars on the screen. And I'm sure everybody here knows about jars. You purchase yourself a jam jar or purchase yourself some jam. You would have had the jam. Having had the jam, then the next thing you're going to do is to use that bottle to put some milk in or something to that effect, right? And then we went over now to recycle and we showed you how recycle a new product is formed. So we've been trying to send out videos that pretty much looking at the video, even if you have no audio, even if you can't read, you can follow the story on the screen. Now, if you observe the last video we sent out today, we sent out a video about nutrition. And in that video, it's on the I'm not sure if it's on the HSP syllabus, but it's on the bio syllabus. But I'm sure you need to know it for HSP, where they're asking you to know the 3 types of nutrition. And we sent out a mnemonics for the first time. And I was saying to my earlier that we have not been practicing some of the things that we were taught in college. We were taught that we should provide you with mnemonics and all of these things. And these things we are going to be putting them back in. The student-centered learning is going to come back and persons are going to enjoy it. Because with student-centered learning, when we teach with student-centered learning, it is a scenario that you get to solve using the content that's given to you. When we give you that content in student-centered learning, what happens is that we cater for multiple intelligence. So it's not a case where you come to class and the teacher is teaching and all the teacher is using the chalkboard and the chart. No. When we do student-centered learning on our platform, what happens is that you're given a picture of what is being taught, you're given a video of what is being taught, and you're given a text format of what is being taught, and you choose which one you want to learn with. So if you prefer to look at the picture and learn, you're going to learn the same thing. But it's just that we're going to take you on a journey with the photograph. If you want to use the video as audio visual, we're going to take you on that journey. All right, great. So we move on with sewage disposal. We could talk more about that as we move along. I am relatively new to this class. Can someone inform me of the days? Okay, great. All right, so we are now ready for sewage disposal. And when it comes to sewage disposal, it's a big thing. It's a big thing because sewage, as we know it, the refuse from our houses, shower, kitchen, urine, feces makes up sewage. And within sewage, we might have a pathogen, all right? And it's really a deadly game if you're playing with sewage and pathogen. Now, sewage is known for that avenue to access typhoid, if you want to access typhoid, or dysentery, or cholera, are worms. All right. So you need to know. All right. Somebody saying yes. You need to know nutrition. Oh, the mnemonics that I was talking about is that a happy student. That's a new mnemonics for nutrition. A being autotrophic, happy being ectotrophic, and a student for saprophytic. And we have given you just about everything that the syllabus has asked for. There's no fluff on the video. Great. So we need to look at sewage because sewage could expose us to typhoid, cholera, dysentery, worms. So we have to have that properly taken care of. Now, the contamination is a problem. And I've seen this on exam papers where it's asking, how could water supply become contaminated? And of course, it could become contaminated a number of ways. We could, of course, have persons disposing of their sewage in open land. And then you understand that this sewage might just be a part of runoff, or it might move, but by flies, by rodent, the disease there will definitely move if you just leave your sewage in open land. Now, where sewage is disposed of in water, then that is just straight water contamination, and the possibility of you falling ill because of this malpractice is a real danger. Then there's also the damage to septic line or to pipelines that carry sewage. If there's an earthquake, there's a possibility. There's also overflowing of sewage line when it rains. So you'll see the sewage main in the road, these vent to the sewage main, you'll see the sewage flowing under road. And in some cases, when you go to lower areas of your towns and cities, you will see the sewage flowing out through the manhole or flowing into the storm drain. These are real problems where sewage is concerned, and our effort in controlling or properly managing sewage disposal. We have also seen damage to septic tanks. All right, so you have the septic tanks, and there's an earthquake and it rupture and it starts to leak and that type of a thing. So all of these are ways in which sewage could cause contamination, or there could be exposure to sewage that will, of course, lead to some form of illness. Now, a big thing, I remember back in the days, way back in Jamaica, some Minister of Agriculture imported some sewage or got some sewage to use and farm, and it created a big storm. For me, call me coward if you wish, but human sewage should not be used on as a fertilizer unless it is properly treated. And I'll go a little further. If you treated this sewage and you are so sure that it is properly treated, put your money where your mouth is. If I use the sewage and anyone should fall ill, then you are going to be paying. If you can do that, then we could run an experiment. But human sewage should not be used as fertilizer unless it is properly treated. I am going to be honest with you. If I know that that is what you use, whether it is properly treated or otherwise, thanks very much. I don't think I need any of your crap. Call me whatever you want to call me. That's just my personal stance, my personal thing. All right? I am afraid of becoming ill, and for that reason, I would have taken that position. Now, what is good sewage disposal? Tell me in the chat. If we are going to be disposing our sewage properly, we're not supposed to dispose it in water and open land and all of that stuff. What is good sewage disposal? What do you understand from that? What do you understand from good sewage disposal? All right, please be reminded to check out our new series. What's the difference? We have been sending out a whole lot of differences that are in line with your broad topics, and we do hope that you think our longest video is about 12 minutes thereabout. Take a little time to watch it. We would have sent out 2 today, and we continue to send them out as often as we can. All right. So we're asking now, what is good sewage disposal for you? We're going to be looking at conservancy, sewage disposal, conservancy, sewage disposal. So it means that we're going to be talking about a lot of, and we're going to be meddling in a lot of, and when we're finished meddling in all this, we're supposed to be able to answer this question on a CXC exam. So if you have your textbook there, up and around to the back of the book, it is almost a large couple of pages in your textbook, sewage disposal, and we're going to be talking about that. Now, we're going to be looking at what you call pit toilet in your country, wherever you are. The thing that we call pit latrine, what is it called in your country? In Jamaica, if it is made from zinc, it has a whole lot of name. When sewage is removed through underground pipes or sewer, which take it to sewage treatment plant. Okay, yes, that is the most suitable method, Amoy. But let's talk about pit latrine now. And I like what you've just said. That is the most suitable way. That is the best way. That is the way that we're certain that things are properly taken care of. Now, what is it that we refer to as pit latrine? What is it referred to in your country? Proper sewage disposal is sewage removed from house in pipes together with water and flush it along. Very good. These are all good definitions. Really, really good. If you're ever asked on the exam and you write that, you get your full 2 marks. Yeah, these are 2 good things. All right, so your textbook might tell you about the privy or the latrine. That has nothing to do with the water carriage system that we call flush toilet. So we have a privy, we have a latrine, and in Jamaica, we have this vulgar name that we refer to it as, and no, flush toilet. Oh, there are some persons who are too young to even know what a pit latrine is. Trust me. There are some persons who have never left the urban area to venture into rural area, or probably you've never gone in a poor community in the urban area. But there are still some persons right across the Caribbean that they are still not latched onto the water carriage system that we refer to as the flush toilet. They continue to use what is called a pit latrine. Now, for those persons who are familiar with the term or the concept pit latrine, they all fall under what we refer to as the conservancy sewage disposal. All right, that's a different one. Let me just tie along with you, Cheryl. Drop latrine. You are saying that in your area or your neck of the woods, it is called drop latrine. That's what you're saying? Amoy, you haven't latched to this one. What is it called? This pit toilet that we call it pit toilet. Yeah, that's what it's called. You're saying that it is called drop latrine. Anybody else with any other name? It's very important we know these names. All right, so the pit latrine, the drop latrine, the surface latrine, whichever one of the latrine, they are all referred to collectively as conservancy sewage disposal. Conservancy sewage disposal. All right, great. Now, the pit latrine, it is not the same as the drop latrine. The drop latrine tend to be a type of latrine in which the sewage is disposed of in water body. Then there is the surface latrine where the feces is disposed of on the surface of the land. So with drop latrine, it is going into water. With surface latrine, it is going on the surface of the land. And with pit latrine, as it suggests, it is going into a pit. Great. Now, let us look at how the pit latrine should be constructed. And probably if you have a textbook, it's very important for you to see that diagram, because when you're asked in an exam to describe, you can use a diagram that is annotated to describe. Now, your pit latrine should first be constructed some meters away from the house. You really don't want it to be too close to your house for a number of reasons we are going to explain. Now, it also should be constructed away from water supply, right? So you don't want to put it too close to your river that is running by. You don't want to construct it in an area where the water table is very, very high. No. And neither do you want to construct your pit latrine in an area where it is heavy clay soil. No, you don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. All right. Now, pit latrine, as it is called, is pretty much a hole that is usually no less than 3 meters deep. So a hole is dug into the ground no less than 3 meters deep. If you don't know what a meter is, a yardstick is a little, just give me 1 second. All right. So would have all seen something like this. Some of these are a meter. This is a little more than a meter. This is actually a yard, which is a little more than a meter. So it's something more like this, a meter. So we're thinking about 3 of this. That is pretty much about the minimum depth that we're looking at for a pit latrine. So it should be about 3 meters deep. You want to remember that at all times. Now, the pit can be constructed deeper only if it will not reach into the water table. Remember, we talk about underground wells that we call aquifers, and you have underground stream and so on. We really don't want the feces to be getting into the underground water, or that which we refer to as a water table. Now, having constructed that hole or that pit, which is 3 meters deep or deeper, you may have the floor. You're going to have a little opening hole there, and that area is going to be concreted, right? And you can concrete it down, make a box column, probably you go down probably a half a meter or thereabout. And the whole reason for doing that is because, like your vegetable crop, their roots will go down about 18 inches thereabout, right? So you want to ensure that you have this sleeve around the pit latrine that will, of course, prevent the seepage in your topsoil, right? It may have a seat. A pit latrine may have a seat, and I was told that in some Jamaican jail lockup, they don't have any seat. What they have to do is to just go over something and squat and do what they have to do. I didn't know that people are still treated that inhumanely, but I was told that it happens. I don't know. I've never been to jail, and I hope I'll never get there. All right. So in some cases, the pit latrine might have a seat. In some cases, you have to squat and do what you have to do. Now, a concrete base is, of course, important, as this concrete base, as I said, prevent vector from entering. Now, you know about rats and all of those things, flies. You don't want them to enter your sewage, all right, or your pit latrine. Now, the surface should be firm. While I was preparing for class, I was going through, and I was recalling as a boy that there was some pit latrine that did not have concrete because concrete was a remote thing for those persons. So it was actually board floor that you had to go in, and you had to clean those board floor with polish. I think it was genie polish back then, and ensure that that place is well maintained. Sometimes I wonder if a person didn't worry about those boards, those boards like a breaking and you're falling into that pit. I've never heard of that happening, but it was something that was and is still a real possibility, still a real fact for a lot of persons in the Caribbean. It's still a real fact, and we want to, of course, treat with that, and of course, should be downhill and from well. All right, so I'm saying that it should be downhill and from well. All right, shouldn't be close to the well. Now, another thing that we need to know is that this surface should be firm and it should be washed or should be allowed to wash frequently. Yes, the floor used to be clean like looking glass. If you are like 100-year-old like me, you have to go in there because that was a part of the hygiene practice to ensure that it is a hospitable place, even though it is outside. Uh, and you have to shine the floor. And then we didn't have liquid polish back then. I didn't have that type of a toilet, really. I had more a concrete floor type, but it had to be clean. And of course, the surface for those persons the persons who are not using the polish to clean, right? They probably would be washing off, but then probably G's was the thing or Dettol. They'd be washing off this concrete surface to ensure that it is clean. Now the concrete site at the top, or the concrete side at the top, pretty much prevents the smell from flowing into surrounding soil. So we talk about this concrete sleeve, and I said probably you could do it about half a meter deep, and that is prevent the sewage from seeping into the soil. Now, those toilets or pit latrine that has a seat coming up, they usually have a lid or a cover, and this pretty much prevent the smell from diffusing into the area, and also prevent flies from entering the pit latrine. You really don't want that to happen. Now, the liquid in the pit latrine, yes, sewage, isn't it, must be able to drain away. Hence, porous soil is needed. So we need soil that will allow the liquid in this latrine to seep away. So that is why clay is not the most ideal soil for a pit latrine. Now, the soil for pit latrine preferably is somewhat loose, sandy, but not sand. Sand might cause it to collapse. Lid keep vectors out. So the lid will keep vectors, flies are vectors. It will keep vector out of whatever type. All right, be it flies, flies, rat, whatever. It will keep them out. Roach, it will keep them out. So you really want to have a lid, and not only to have a lid, but to have the lid closed. So once the lid is closed, then you should be keeping out vector of all types. All right. Then another thing that we want to look at is that the bacteria in the soil will of course cause the feces there to decompose. Now, because it is bacteria that is acting on the feces, which takes me back to the types of nutrition. Remember, we spoke about the nutrition in the video earlier. We spoke about decomposers being bacteria and fungi. So the decomposer here, which is a bacteria, is going to be acting on the feces to break it down into what we refer to as humus. Now, if the bacteria is there working, one of the things that we should not do in the pit latrine, we should not use detergent in the pit latrine. If we use detergent in the pit latrine, what is going to happen is that the detergent is going to kill the bacteria. You really don't want that to happen, because if that happens, what is going to happen is that your pit latrine is going to have that feces being piled up, and of course you'll have to dig another one pretty soon. Now, if the pit latrine becomes filled because of slow decomposition, it should be covered with soil. So when you have a pit latrine and it's filled, don't try to dig it out. Just cover it with some soil that the decomposition process will continue. Of course, the detergent will destroy the bacteria. Pit latrine should be placed in sandy soil to allow liquid to drain. All right, so not in sand soil, but sandy soil, because soil, there are different soil types. There are really three basic soil types. There are what we refer to as sand, clay, and loam, right? But then there is what we refer to now as a sandy soil. A sandy soil, or we could say like a clay loam, that's a mixture of loam and clay. We could look at a friable soil that is sort of some like a sandy loam. So you want it to be in a sandy loam soil. It should not be interpreted as a sandy soil, because you understand that the particles for sand, it is really, really far apart. So if you build your latrine in a sand soil, what is going to happen is that before time, who knows, this it will collapse. All right. So understand it to mean a sandy soil, which means that it's a soil that is mixed with some other type of soil, but definitely not pure sand. Try not to do that, not sand alone. All right. So a lot of things been said there. Does the detergent thing apply to flush toilet as well? All right, the thing about a flush toilet and detergent is that the amount of water that is passing through a flush toilet will definitely in some time uh, dilute the effect of the detergent that you're using. Now, remember that when it comes to sewage treatment, as in the flush toilet, because it's going through this commercial treatment plant, they will do their additive to ensure that the decomposition as it be will take place. So I am not here saying, and in no way are we saying, that you should not clean your toilet. Yes, you should use detergent to clean your toilet. The effect and this ceramic white thing, they call it a pan or something in your textbook, but this new commercial toilet that you have that can have lime scale and all of that, yes, you should clean it. And the amount of water that is passing through it will definitely dilute the detergent effect that you're having in your flush toilet. But in your pit toilet, you really don't have so much water going in it. So to put detergent in it, you are definitely going to be killing the bacteria. And of course, when you kill the bacteria, what will happen is that you will have slow decomposition of the feces, and as such, the toilet will become all filled up very quickly. Now, remember, once it becomes all filled, your responsibility is to have it covered with soil and be protected from vectors. All right, good. Now, another thing that we need to do is to, of course, once it's filled, we are going to dig a fresh pit. So you're going to dig a new pit. All right. Do not take the feces out of it. So you're going to fertilize crops. I have seen a past people like that. Don't do that. Once it's filled, dump it up with some soil and dig a new pit. Now, there are some other type of pit we spoke about. We spoke about drop latrine. And drop latrine, what it tends to do is to pass the sewage into streams or rivers or somewhere nearby. You really don't want to do that because it's like direct pollution of the water and, of course, direct contamination of the water and like pretty much recipe for your illness later. You don't know where somebody might get a fish from and they take it to you and you know what might happen. Pretty much like that which happened with the mini-matter disease. Then there is, of course, surface lashing, which we spoke about, which, of course, the sewage is left on the surface of the land. And here, as Amoy continued to allude to, that the vector will have access to the sewage if it is on the surface, and as such, you know that you're setting up yourself for a fall. They normally dig until they reach the sun, sir. To be honest with you, I don't know much about digging and reaching the sun. Because if we look at soil type, you can dig and dig and dig until they reach water and never ever see sun. So it is not a case that there's always sun down there to see. You can go through the soil column. There's what we refer to as a soil profile. And you could probably, of course, go through topsoil and go through different layers of rock and so on. But depending on where you are, you might not dig to get to a point where you see like what is typical of a soil profile. The amount of soil in itself that is there might be so deep that as you dig and you continue to go down, you might enter into water body, into the underground water. But all these are going to be different based on where you are. There are some persons who will pretty much have to have a septic tank to collect the pieces based on the soil type that they're having and the depth of the soil where they are. So one of the things when we are constructing this thing, we have to find out what is applicable to us so that we can go and do the right thing. What is in the textbook might not be applicable to you in Trinidad as it would have been applicable in St. Vincent or Barbados or Jamaica or that type of thing. So of course, these are just some of the general things that we need to take in consideration. Now, Sewage production in the Caribbean. Oh, one more thing before we leave the sewage thing. So just let me just build a little picture of what it is. So you're going to have your pit latrine, right? And you have it dug down to about probably about 3 meters. You want to ensure that it is not dug in an area where water is close by or where it will seep into your water body. You want to ensure that the top, the base there is concrete and it has a little sleeve that will, of course, prevent sewage from seeping into your topsoil. If it has a rise, a seat, it must have a lid, and around that you're going to have an housing, and with that housing, you are going to have like a vent on it to prevent flies from coming, like a mesh, so it's not aerated, but mesh. The air can come in, but not the vector. The door should be closed, the seat should be closed, and it must be properly sanitized every now and then. However, you should not add this detergent, this sanitizer to the feces itself. You will pretty much prevent the bacteria from doing their job. Sir, I know people will call the septic company to come and withdraw from the pit when it's full. That's a fact. There are some persons who are attached in Jamaica to the sewage main, but depending on where your community is, there might be a pit. And when we have a pit in Jamaica, depending on where the house is and depending on how affluent you are, it might be a big something, it might be something very, very small, or it might be a company that has a big septic pit in front and the car park is on top of it. All that could happen. So from time to time, you will have the septic truck that comes in and pull that sewage. So that's more like a bigger commercial stuff, but pretty much it's the same thing. And this would of course be connected to a flush network. Very seldomly you would find like a little person with a drop pit or with a little pit latrine that is connected to something that a septic truck is coming to draw. No, not in a pit latrine case. No. If you know of a pit latrine, the one that they call house in Jamaica, if you know of one that a septic truck is coming to draw, there's not even water going in it because these persons are just going to brush their teeth probably outside, bathe outside, and they have a little pit latrine. They really don't have running water at home for water to be going in that pit. They have a bucket with some water or that type of thing. Jamaica is a real place. The Caribbean is a real place. The world is a real place. And whether we like it or not, in some areas, it is too expensive. In some areas, it is too expensive for pipe water based on the distribution of the population. It's too expensive to get water there. So when we talk about pit latrine, so you have some persons who really, really can't afford it. All right. So there are some persons though who have a pit at home and they have this pit, they are connected to the national water grid and they are having their sewage going into their private pit. And of course, when it is filled, then you call the septic truck to pull it out and they are going to be pulling out the liquid. All right. So that is a whole different ball game. All right. And that is where we now look at the commercial sewage management. And you're going to be seeing that that is something a little different than the pretty much pit latrine. Now let's look at sewage production in the Caribbean. Now, naturally, as the population increases, so too the amount of sewage will increase. And while the population is increasing and the sewage increases, so too the introduction of tourists in our local, that is also causing an increase in sewage because you have more persons coming in, so naturally we have more sewage. I remember that sewage is not only feces, but all the grey water from the house is considered to be sewage. So you have the increase, which is due to, of course, an increase in population and tourists. And then you have to understand that this increase threatens our water supply because we have to be finding new ways to either build more septic pit or to carry this to the national system. So we have a lot of problem, as it were, for sewage. We dig a new pit when it's full instead of calling a truck. Yes. So with the pit latrine, you can't call a truck, you dig a new pit. With pit latrine, you can't call a truck because the truck can't take up anything out of a pit latrine, right? It can take up liquid, not the solid that is in a pit latrine. You'd of course dig a new pit. Another thing we need to know here is that this pit latrine thing in most cases, you'd see in Jamaica, I probably could tell you, you'll see on the news where like some rural primary schools are schools that, yeah, rural primary schools and basic school, they are moving away from pit latching and they are now putting in a water carriage system that it uses water, it flush, but it takes this sewage now into a septic pit, pretty much like the one I think Dixie spoke about. Pretty much it takes it out there. So the whole concept of pit latching might be something that we'll have to look at on a photograph in the near future. It might be off the CXC paper in the near future, providing that we're able to rid ourselves of them and install a water carriage system. Now, the water carriage system, everybody would pretty much have a good idea that it is connected to a pipe system which uses water to carry the excrement to the pit. Now, you are going to have something to do some reading on. I want you to do some reading on the septic pit or septic tank and see what it is like, how it operates, and what this has to do with the pulling of the sewage, as I think Dixie said earlier, septic tank. So in my next class, I'm going to ask, well, Dixie is the right person to ask, to just tell us a little bit about septic tank, how they are constructed, how they work, that type of thing. Like I say, our next class is slated to be Wednesday, all things being well. We should start looking at the population. Now, we're looking at the 2019 paper as we were asked to. In a matter of fact, I started working it last night and I just fell asleep. All right, but we should get it out sometime soon. And sorry, for those persons who are looking at that population pyramid, I started talking about it earlier. It is not as difficult as I know a population pyramid to be, because with a population pyramid, you have to understand always the trend. What does this pyramid mean? If you've seen it for the first time or you're going to be reading on the population pyramid, it might be interesting to know that Jamaica has a unique pyramid that does not fit into the convention of pyramids across the world. Why is it so for Jamaica? Because in the 1980s, the Ministry of Health in Jamaica took on a campaign to reduce population where they said that two is better than too many. That campaign has worked so well that as a poor country, as a third world country, we have a population graph that is something like a first world country, where we should have a broad base of baby boomers or persons who are growing to be baby boomers. Instead, we have a narrow base. All right. So to answer the questions on that 2019 paper, if you use a ruler and you measure either part, you could pretty much determine the trend. Like I was looking at it, and I can say that a man at age 80 is less likely to have AIDS than a woman at age 80, based on what the diagram is saying. And you could pull from any age group that you so desire on that population graph. But we're going to be teaching the graph rather than answering the question. I'm going to be going through the different types. I have never seen it on a past paper before. I think probably 2019 is the first I'm seeing it on the paper. So if it was not well done, then we know that this is the first time we're going to be seeing the paper again. It might very well, or something from that part of the syllabus. That's the very last part of the syllabus that they took that from. 2019 is the last part of the syllabus that teachers don't teach. That is where they took that graph from. All right. Okay, sir. It's Tamara Bennett will prepare for next class. Great. All right, sir. Sir, the 2018 paper 2 has a pit latching question. If I didn't answer it, I am sure I have it somewhere around the place. I have seen it. And what we did today should be able to help you to answer that. But I could probably look for it if I have time and I'm not called to do something else, which, you know, I give you a lot of my Sunday. I must say really thanks to my family, because they would have given up a whole lot of time to have me on a Sunday evening. Everybody is eating ice cream on Sunday evening. Mr. Wilson is teaching on a Sunday evening. So yeah, I know I've seen a pit latching question somewhere around the place. And guys, please continue to prepare. Let me hope that you are not in this mood of thinking that you are going to fail or that type of thing. If you keep preparing and you're doing well, following the question, looking at the broad topics that were sent, you should be in a good position. In the last class, somebody asked if it would have been wise for you to be here today. I was going through the syllabus today and I realized that yes, sewage is on the biology syllabus. It might not be as big as the HSB syllabus, but sewage treatment is on it. Didn't say pit latrine on it, but sewage treatment in itself is on the biology syllabus. So that takes us to the end of today's show. I want to see if I can prepare what is the difference between the activated sludge method and the aeration method. If I have time enough, I'll do that and send it out. I'm trying to send out these lessons that are less than 10 minutes, but I think I went up to 12 with one, but we're trying our best. Sir, do you know the dates of the exams? Yes, we made them available on the channel. There is, go to my channel and I think it is in red, CXC, and it has a date for all the exams. We would have published the video on that. I don't remember the date for it. I really don't keep that in mind, but I have a video on the channel. You could just go to the back end and check. All right, do we have any other questions? I'm taking the questions now, you know. I'm taking the questions now. We have just 2 more classes left. So do you have things to share? If you have things to share, anything, you can just share it now. All right, let me do something for you. Look at that. Oh, wow. It can't go. I'm so sorry. I was sending you something, but it's too big. All right, my pleasure. I'm really grateful. Oh, you've been here for the past 6 months. It's been quite a while. We're honored. We try our best. All right, great, 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 great. All right, so we are going to be here for September. We are going to be looking over some of the things that we can do differently. We're really reflective practitioners, so we try to look at what went right, what can be better based on what person's suggestions. We look at the suggestion, we look at the consumption, we look at the YouTube data to see how we can better suit our client. We're going to be here for the long haul. I tell you, I really enjoy being here because one of the things I like about teaching as a teacher, I like when I find students who want to learn. You notice I didn't say bright students. I like when I find students that like to learn. I like when I find students that are committed. No, I don't think we need any greater commitment than to have students logged on a Sunday evening for classes. Who goes to school on a Sunday? You must be in the Middle East to go to school on a Sunday. We don't go to schools on a Sunday in Jamaica, but you are always here every Sunday evening, and that is pretty much admirable and speaks to your commitment in passing the exam. So I have a new model HSB textbook. Does it really make a difference with the whole textbook? You pretty much are loading something there for me. Just give me a second. I wouldn't be able to answer to that. First of all, you'd have to tell me what book it is that you have. I don't know what book you have. You have to tell me the book or send me a copy of the book. Now, if you send me a copy of the book, then I could tell you whether or not it makes sense. What are you answering to Amoy? My pleasure, Cheryl. All right, great. Well, it can only get better. It can really only get better. I continue to watch the latest in teaching. I think that I am a loner. I'm a reflective practitioner, I like to say. And I think that we have to change the way we teach if we are going to be changing our fortunes in the Caribbean. The whole idea of teaching now is that it should be student-centered, where the teachers armed with so much content that we're not afraid to tell you to go and do a research. And when you go and do a research, there's no wrong and right with the return of your answer. when you return with an answer, there's always something to be learned from what the kid would have returned with. Now, in the Caribbean, we definitely will have to go there. US is there. Places in the Middle East, they are there. So the teacher serves as a facilitator, and the technology is working admirably as well. So, like I said, that if I'm supposed to teach a class and I'm teaching online, I can cater for the needs of all the learners using the technology, even if I'm teaching from right where I am and you are in Trinidad, right? So I know that's the other video student. You create a lesson and you can treat with everyone, providing that they want to learn. But the sage on the stage, as it is called, where you just stand and you just lecture, and you just lecture, and you lecture, it's not really working for a lot of students, and it doesn't really add much value as for the student to do their own discovery and come up with their own thing. We're shutting down students. You don't say that. Don't do that. I didn't ask you to go and research on that. Why are you coming back with that information? I asked you for the white blood cell. Why are you coming back with 5 white blood cells? There are only 2 on the syllabus. But what if you knew about those other 3? All right. So that type of thing speaks to student-centered learning. And those persons who are not there yet, you probably need to go on YouTube, what student-centered learning, and look at its benefit, because some of your students or some of your children will, of course, be experiencing that in the near future, because we can't continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. Thanks, sir. Appreciate your effort. Moment you have spent with us, really learned and enjoy your style of teaching. Thank you very much. Highly appreciated. The name of the book, Human and Social Biology for CSEC, new edition by Anne, what is that? Anne Pulitz and Alexa Morrison. Um, you, wow, I was going to ask you to take a screenshot of it and send it to me. I don't know if I know that. You want to describe it for me to see if I have it in what I have on the soft copies? It is an orange book with a turtle to front of the book. Oh, I'm sorry, I have never seen that book. But what I will do, I'll go in the bookshop. Is this an author that is out there like Until Dale and so on? I don't know. I've never seen the book. But there's not much changes in the syllabus than the lab. And if the lab is the problem for the persons who are going to be doing HSB, there is a lab in the back of the syllabus that nicely details how the lab is supposed to be done. And there's also a specimen paper that is all worked out and explained for you. So persons who are doing HSB for and will be doing the SBA, I don't think that there's any need to worry, right? One of the things that we observe with the lab is that I would advise a teacher, if a teacher is in the room, come September, start teaching the syllabus from the back. Because if the lab is dealing with the back and teachers are seldomly passing genetics, how are the students going to do well with the labs? So we need to start teaching from the back of the syllabus. Like I have said, I've been teaching for 13 years and I've never got this far on the syllabus. Never. I'm going to complete the syllabus come Friday, and it's the first time. It's the first time in 13 years. So I understand you going to classes and you're going to sit the exam, and in most cases, you guys are going to classes. How many persons here would have completed the syllabus or will complete the syllabus? Let me have a show of hands. Thank you, sir. I have been following you for 2 weeks now, and I really enjoy your videos and learn a lot. I am most grateful. All right, we continue to do our best. Like I said, this is my passion, and I do it to the best of my ability. I continue to grow after 13 years. I still think that I'm a child in the business, and I still think that there's a lot for me to learn. I am learning from you. I listen to everybody. I watch Amoy tend to post. I also admire the respect that is, of course, offered to each other, the empathy in the room. I mean, that is like a top of the table. The empathy that is expressed when a person is wrong in the room, not seeing anybody bashing anyone. And that is really, really nice because it makes for an inviting classroom. In an inviting classroom, students are supposed to ask questions. They are supposed to be allowed to ask questions. You're supposed to listen to the concerns. And when you're in a class and a teacher is not listening, our students are not listening, and you don't have a voice because your shirt is not as pretty as Mr. Wilson's shirt, then that doesn't argue well for learning. My teacher finished the syllabus. So Amoy is on top. Amoy teacher is pretty much over with it. I do commend your teacher. That might be one of many. All right. So, Amar, now please be reminded that you're going to be doing your past papers and you're going to ensure that you get that one for the subject this year. Please don't settle for anything less. Good evening, sir. This is my first time with you. I'm going to HSB and you're going to do HSB in July. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the show. Please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. Now, if you're going to need additional help, you could, of course, log on to our class at TCP Academy. It comes with a little cost, and you can pay using a number of methods. You can use credit card, you can use debit card, you can use Western Union, you could use direct payment. So to pay will not be a problem. You can use direct deposit, all of those you can use to pay. So if you're going to need help, we're going to be here. It's not expensive. I should make this known by the end of July. We should be up and running by the end of July, end of August, so that persons can start their courses pretty early. Uh, we are going to be online, like I have said. So we're going to continue to be here. We're not going to be having 3 classes. We're going to be having 2 classes because there are other things to be done. But I'm very happy that I was able to share with you probably the first set of internet students that I have taught. I really don't know anyone here. Every now and then I might see my students, every now and then, but usually it's all persons that I don't know who are in the room. All right, thanks very much for the wonderful comments that have been coming in, suggestions and all that we should do. We really appreciate and value them. We tend to look at every comment that comes in and it helps to shape the content that we put out. We're really, really grateful for that. And for the persons who continue to show our videos some love, don't ask me, oh, you know how you show the videos love. We're really grateful for that, sir. Sir, my last topic was excretion. Only cover 5 topics, but thanks. Thanks you. I am up to date. Are you in an evening class or you're in the formal school system, Dixie? Evening class or formal school system? Amor, you are in the evening class, so you are going to finish your syllabus. But as to the students who are in the formal school system, the grade 7 to 11 or grade 7 to 6 form, it is going to be a little different for them. All right, so please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. Please also be reminded that you can be treated with any of our videos on the channel. We have close to 250 videos on the channel. Feel free to go on over. All right, we have some IT videos for those persons who want to do some IT. And if you are like a Moy who is not in IT, you just want to be a medical person, but you want to ensure that you sharpen those IT skills, that you can really put out a presentation document, you can really put out a PowerPoint, a good PowerPoint that person's like, is that really PowerPoint? Yes, you can sign up. We do offer that as well. All 3 videos that I've sent out for the past 3 days, they're all PowerPoints. All PowerPoints. No other software more than the software that capture it. It's just PowerPoint. So it just speaks to the level of PowerPoint that we do over here. And that's like elementary if you ask me. All right. All right. So, so you are going to evening class. So I assume that you have not paid since then. Because if you are going to evening class as an adult learner and you are only at excretion, you couldn't have paid for the rest of the year unless it is your fault why you're not going to class. I'm not asking you to cause problem anyhow. But if I were going to classes and the teacher stop at excretion, then I don't know that I'm going to pay. Yes, sir, I did in advance. Well, you need to claim. If it's not your fault, like you stop going to classes, you will have to claim for the money because if they did not provide a service, then it's only fitting that they refund you. I don't know what's the arrangement. I don't know if it is your fault or otherwise. But if the school failed to provide you the service that you had agreed to, then it's only natural that they'll be willing to refund some amount of funds. All right, because school closed. My son attends a school in Jamaica, and he doesn't live with me. But every time I go to see him, every time I visit him, he's always busy. It's like it's regular school. So to say that school has closed for me, but I reach you guys 3 days per week. So for your school to tell you that no classes because you probably need to have some conversation with them. I'm not too sure what does that mean, but I do suggest that you have some conversation with them. It's more than one. Oh my, it look like you have a lot of money. We want money over here now. We want money for lighting and cameras and so on. So if you have that amount of donation, you probably need to send it to Mr. Wilson live. We'd gladly accept it, you know. We'd gladly accept it and make like a phenomenal product come next year. All right. So see how best you can treat with that. I hope it will be amicably resolved. I don't know what to tell you, but I do understand. We would have covered the entire syllabus or soon to cover the entire syllabus. So you can find it on the live and we have some supporting videos for some topics. Might I just interest you with one thing before I go? What's the difference between the point of origin and the point of insertion? Point of origin and the point of insertion. That's a skeletal system. Point of origin and the point of insertion. What makes the difference? What makes the difference? I'm not going to put Amoy on the spot. Anybody want to answer that? The point of insertion versus the point of origin. All right, think about that. If you don't have the answer, just remind me and I'll give it to you if I don't publish it before then. Continue to enjoy the rest of your evening. For those persons who have curfew, make sure you obey the rules of your country. And of course, for those persons who are going to work tomorrow, please ensure that you go in and get ready for work and school tomorrow. Spend some time with your family. Remember, if you never get to the top of the mountain, still show someone the way. Good evening.